About that you fail to recognize the Pan-Africanist vision of things from an economic perspective. So talk to us about how the current leadership of your party now has taken that.
Okay. Now, United African Transformation is a Pan-Africanist organization, that strive to unite Africans, that strive to bring back the dignity of Africans. And you cannot talk about the dignity of Africans if you don't put the issue of land at the center of all the economic activities, because land is dignity for Africans, land is prosperity for Africans, land is development for Africans. So our direction is very simple. We want the expropriation of land without compensation. We want the land to go back to the people, because we know very well that when you have land as a powerful resource on the surface, you can be able to actually produce more food, sell food to the world, process the food, revitalize all the industrialization program that someone attempted to do and they failed, but we have our own newly developed industrialization program that will actually facilitate and push through land ownership. Because once you process all those veggies and fruits and all other agricultural products, then you're already playing in the manufacturing space. More jobs will be created, a lot of money will be generated, crime will go down, because one of the major causes of crime is hunger, is poverty, and so on. I don't even want to talk about land under the soil, the minerals, and so on and so forth. Yes, the current leadership understand that this is a Pan-Africanist organization, because you are. Together, when we join hands, we can actually assist in terms of addressing the socio-economic challenges facing our people.
Land expropriation without compensation?
Yes, because lands was stolen from us, must be returned to the people, but in a very proper and legitimate manner. We don't want any reckless decision making like other parties, where members are just informed to go and grab land, take loans, build houses 3, 4, 5 months. The municipalities send people to demolish and people are left with heavy debts. That's reckless thinking. We don't want that. We're going to do it properly. And we agree that the issue of land is a complex matter, because other parties, when they talk about land expropriation without compensation, they oversimplify this issue. And this issue is so complex because even the oppressors, in collaboration with their own associates in the current administration, made sure that they complete this particular matter, and put some clauses in the constitution so that it becomes difficult for an African man to be able to get land in his own motherland.
Right, I want to talk about the results of the voting of last night. Major contestation with regards to that. A lot of controversy, technical glitches, and so forth. I think everyone understands that the IC's funding was cut, and that has contributed to a major factor. What is the United African Transformation stake with regards to that over there, and what are your party agents on the ground saying about various residents of the districts in their unhappiness with that?
There's a lot of issues that have been raised by our party agents, and I personally raised some of them with the CEO. Amongst others, one, there are some of the houses that are now voting stations, and if you look at the way they've been structured, there's no police involved there. They are not in a manner that, then they don't create a conducive environment for voting in terms of legalities and so on. And I've raised that with the CEO. Another issue, there are some areas where people came with ballot papers in the school bag, and our party agents have raised that, and I also raised it with the CEO. And there's some other areas where other people were kind of trying to bring the foreigners, to vote, and this is South African election, and I don't want to talk about their system that is always offline. I want to talk about that system. I don't want to talk about the late arrival. Some people don't appear on the ballot. So all those elements affect the principles of fairness, because when you talk fairness, it includes so many things. So IEC need to be very professional, provide the progressive and servant leadership, to the people.
But how are they going to do that when they have half of the budget cut, or a significant portion of the budget cut? It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, but now even if half of the budget is cut, that does not affect the poor decision of making just houses voting stations. Even if half of the budget is cut, it does not affect the poor decision of just having a buggy transporting the ballot papers without the police monitoring, because that's a pure leadership failure. So if as much as the budget is cut, you work around that budget. That's exactly the essence of leadership. One of the fundamentals of leadership is planning, and in that planning, there's leadership, there's project planning, there's project budgeting. Yeah. So I don't think that's the reason. That's the reason. You work around what you have, and you make noise to us as political parties and say it will be very difficult for me to deliver the free and fair elections because of the following reasons, so that we can go back to this big elephant that has been messing up this country for the past 30 years and say you're affecting, the elections in one or the other.
I'm just taking a look. I'm trying to find your party on the kind of difficult.
No, we're doing well. We're doing well. We're doing well.
Let's see. You just look page up. A bit difficult for me to find it there, but I'm going to try and see. Maybe if you can find it for us.
Yes. It's after MK there.
After MK, so we're sitting on 2,141 as it stands. Of course, we've just got close to 14% of the votes that are coming in. Are you satisfied so far?
Yes, we're making progress. It's still too early. It's still too early now to come up with any assumptions and conclusions. We are fine with it. When we look at the way we're actually performing in Limpopo, I mean, out of all these small parties now that have just established, I think we're the leading, and even some of the parties that are in the national parliament, we're even leading them in Limpopo and even in Mpumalanga and so on. Yeah, so far so good. The South African trust us, and we strongly believe that their trust will never be betrayed.
As a small party, how do you distinguish yourself from the other new parties that have come in? Because everyone's making a promise of focus on youth, and many of them are also saying, listen, as the new dogs within the political space, we can bring something different. So how does the United African Transformation say, I've got something that's different to the voter, and how do you implement it? Because it's one thing saying, well, we have it on paper, but the implementation might take quite some time. So how do you change that perception?
Okay. Look, I listen to all other smaller parties. We are not small, maybe small in terms of the time we established, but not small in terms of orientation and thinking and impact.
Establishment time, given the space of a period,
Okay.
Sorry if the wording came out a bit wrong with regards to that.
That's fine. Now, when I listen to all other parties, they just repeat. They just repeat what has been said for the past 30 years by the party that failed. They just repeat what all other parties are actually articulating. I'll give an example. If you look at the revenue that South Africa generates, you'll realize that 60 to 70% of the money goes to salaries. So even if those other parties are able to take over, they won't have money to implement some of those programs, which is the reason why a lot of promises were made, but the implementation was difficult. That's why the ruling party end up looking for international investors, and they come with their own terms. And you cannot tell them that you're going to expropriate land and give it to the people, because they come with their own terms. They're the ones that are owning South Africa.
How do you try not allow the strong arming of foreign investors? I ask that because on paper it's easy. So you would tell me, okay, when an investment company comes, I'm going to try and use maybe BHP Billiton as a classic example, because they're trying to, of course, take over majority of Anglo-Americans. So if I were to put the United African Transformation as the governing party, and you've got BHP Billiton coming and dictating how mining should be done in this country, how do you say, no, it does not happen like that? We as the government, through the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, change that perception. So talk to us with regards to that, because on paper, yes, it looks all fine with regards to your manifesto, but the actual implementation of it.
Quite easy. Now, we're not worried about the operational part of the mine. We talk ownership, we talk revenue generation, we talk management. Let's give an example. You have the mining charter in this country, and according to the regulations, right, those mines, before they start operating, they must comply with the mining charter.
Sure.
Now, that's where you can be able to say, the money that we generate here, let's channel it to industrialization program. The money that we generate here, gone are those days where the mines must just give money and donate to crèches and so on and so forth. We will be able to tell them and say, we want to create an industrial park. We want to create a produce market in the rural area so that our farmers there can have a central point to deliver the good. So you're still able to work on the instruments that are there while penal beating them to come up with your own instruments. I mean in terms of the legislation, currently, as I was speaking, they have the BBBE Act, which speaks about 3% net profit after tax on small business. But it's not happening. Why? Because you don't have a strong leadership to implement it. So the first part is to have a leadership that is decisive, because when you have the type of leadership that is in the pockets of the owners of those resources, yes, you can have the best policies, you can have the best laws, but they'll fail implementation. But as United African Transformation will say, look, here is the mine, run with it. This is the ownership. This is the structure. The revenue that we generate here, if we put percentage that goes to the community, then the investment will go to land. That investment will go to processing. That investment will go to other areas. At least now, our people will actually benefit from the minerals that are on their land. So the major problem of this country, one, is a leadership problem. It's a leadership problem. Because now you have leaders that are already in the payroll of the people. That's why they cannot speak. That's why at some point, some were complaining that one man cannot implement the resolution of the conference. And the conference is a high decision making, but he can't, because when you try to implement, they say, hey, where did you get your billions? Then you get, so with us, we're not going to come up with that cater deployment type of arrangement where foreign companies will dictate terms to us. We'll say we want strong leaders that understand that the first task of a revolutionary is to tell the truth. Because for 40 years, they were not told the truth. Those guys are billionaires. They are millionaires. Where did they get the money? They were in exile. They were in prisons. Now, a few months later, they are billionaires. Where did you get the money? That's the reason why they cannot implement. So the implementation is not the problem. Strong leadership, strong policies, but communicate and ensure that we create that harmonious relationship.
Interesting to see how this will turn out. Thank you so much for joining us on Hilaal TV.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. From the United African Transformation Party. After the break, we'll have more for you here on 2024 elections on Hilaal TV. Do stay tuned.